Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and we just told you all the things we would change. Well, we should probably tell you the things we wouldn't change. So if you like that kind of video, and again, this is more business-oriented stuff that you guys have been asking for, do me a favor, click like, click subscribe, take a few minutes to go check out the Patreon and see if you'd be interested in that. It starts at $5 for full access, and the Discord alone is worth that. Plus, early access to our babies. What could be better than that? Like, I don't know, toot my own horn here. But we need that to keep growing so we can continue to grow and expand. So it'd be a big help to us, and we do work hard to actually give you more than what you pay for on there, unlike some Patreons out there. I think we average 6 posts a week. I challenge other Patreons to do that. Some do. I mean, there's other ones that do great. But what would I do that I wouldn't change? Or what did I do that I wouldn't change? Well, there's a lot of things I think we did really well. Some of them are very small. Some of them are a little larger. We're going to cover a handful of things that I don't think I would change. Not today. Some of them I wouldn't change. Maybe they're not the best from the business standpoint. And again, business in this it's a balance for us. It's not for everybody. Some people are purely business oriented, like we've talked about the large scale for-profit breeders. We are more of a for-profit breeder, but we're not a corporation. We're not a business only breeder. There's a lot that we do for the passion and the love. With that, some of this may not be the best decision when it comes to business, and I'll point those out as I mention them, but they were the best for me. There are things I'm glad I did it that way, and I would not change. First of all, kind of specializing in Axanthic. I wouldn't change that. We obviously have a lot of genes here. We have a good variety. We have a lot of different recessive genes. I mean, I can label a bunch. We got albino, we got toffee, we got clown, we've got Axanthic, we've got, oh, I don't know. Ghost. Yeah, we got ghost. We got desert ghost. We got krypton, which is cryptic. I guess I said we have cryptic. There's 7 I thought of right there. And I know I'm probably missing 1 or 2 other recessives we got running around in this place that we do work with. So we do work with a lot of recessives, but if I were to go through, and I have on other videos, and I would show you how much of my collection has Axanthic in it, whether it's het or visual, how many of our holdbacks that even from this year also have Axanthic ties. There is a whole lot of snake keeper line Axanthic running through our collection. I wouldn't change that. The reason I wouldn't change it, I think that's important, not just telling you why I wouldn't change it, but telling you why I wouldn't change it. One is I didn't reinvent that wheel, okay? This isn't me being a genius. I stole that. I'll tell you exactly where I stole it from. I stole it from John Dog, which is JD Constriction. He's way more specialized than we are. We have a lot more other stuff where he is probably 90% only Axanthic or connected to Axanthic. So he is very, very specialized. But I also kind of thought, man, that was really neat to look at when I was buying and looking at stuff, because you had a guy who really knew that gene inside and outside more than most. He was able to pick his holdbacks and push them in a certain way, in a certain direction for a certain quality. And I kind of wanted to do the same thing. And that being my favorite gene is what I wanted to work with. And that also helps to keep me passionate, because I've always got an Axanthic project I'm looking forward to finishing or doing, or there's something new going on. Like this year, we're making a bunch of lesser head stuff. So I want to get lesser in my Axanthic line and do some stuff with that. And we also did a lot of Blitz Axanthic stuff. We're working on it, right? So by doing that, it keeps my focus and it keeps my passion. It makes this less just, well, here's a day I've got to make a bunch of snakes to make money, and I got to make some snakes. I want to see how they look when they crawl out. I wouldn't change that specialization for anything. Buying this reptile house, and I kind of told you in the last video, we were going to talk about that a little bit. I wouldn't change this. And this was, again, was this the best for business? For us, yes. For most people, buying a house may not be the best way to do it. But again, every situation is different. And when we bought this house, we came across a really great situation. Basically, my work is at home when it comes to the reptile stuff. I mean, literally, this property joins my property, so it's not very far away. It's easy to get here. It's easy to come home from my normal job and say, oh, I have some work to do. I don't have to drive across town and drive back across. I just come right here and do it. It's great. I can come here, do something, go home if I need to, and come back. I've done that many times. I can stop in 2 or 3 times a day when I need to and do a few things here and there. It is awesome. On the other front of that, it gives us enough room to do what we want to do. And then 2, part of building a business, for me, is not about the money you make today. Money you make today and the cash flow that comes in is very, very important in your business. Obviously, you need money to pay for stuff. And if you want to do it full time, you need to make enough money to pay your bills. That's how it works, y'all. But also part of making money when it comes to a business or anything is the money you make tomorrow. Ensuring that what you're doing is a wealth building thing, that you're making money for the future. You know, every snake that we grow up, that we keep, has a value, right? I can sell an adult pied female for less than I could when she was a baby. There's an inherent wealth growing in that. Having these animals I could sell out, I could make so much money in return on that. Well, the house is the same way. I'm not renting a building. I'm not renting a space. This is a space that we own, that if we were to turn around today and say, for whatever reason, we're done. I'm out, I quit, no more reptiles, I want to be done, I want to get into something else. Maybe I want to build a spaceship to compete with Elon, right? Because I could certainly not do that. But let's say that's what we're going to do. So we're going to sell everything to fund our next project, or fund life, or fund an investment. There's an inherent value because we purchased this house. Every month when I send the payment off on it, because we are still paying for it, I'm putting money in my pocket in the back end, right? Because I'm getting more equity as it goes up in value, as homes tend to do. If you look at homes for the last 20 years, I mean, they'll do this, but it's always on the way up. We are going to make wealth and build wealth because we own this building. We own this house. We could also use this house for different ways of making revenue. Maybe the snake market fell apart and we got out and we decided we only wanted to have a couple pets because we just didn't want to do this anymore. We could turn this into an Airbnb or a full-time rental and still make a profit on this house. So I wouldn't change buying the reptile house. The reptile house is awesome. Love it. Great decision. I feel very strongly that this is going to be good for us long term. Social media. Man, that's something that, well, there's things about how we've done social media I would change. Like maybe I would have gotten into Instagram a little bit better. But I know a lot of that comes down to just having the time to do it that I don't have right now. All changing in the next 20 months. But that social media, man, that has been such a big win for us. Like the house we just talked about doesn't exist without social media. You know, a lot of the customers we have doesn't exist without social media. The growth we've experienced, it doesn't exist without social media or a lot of other income from us. We were able to fund a lot of our growth through things like Patreon. Patreon is what literally pays for this place that we're in. It's what has paid for a lot of animals. Social media and those connections, what has got us a lot of the racks that we have and allowed us to buy those for different rates through advertising deals. So social media has been a huge, huge cornerstone to our success. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm a big believer if you're not on it, you're missing an opportunity. That doesn't mean you have to do it to the level we do it or do it on the same platforms we do it on, which by the way is YouTube, Patreon, and TikTok, and Instagram. And every now and then we may post on Facebook, but it's been a long time. I got to fix that actually, because I think the link now, if I double post, when I post to Instagram, somehow post to Kurt's Facebook and not Olympus's. And it's really weird. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And how is this guy posted on mine? Well, yeah. Anyway, I think you need to be on there. It's a great way to meet clients, a great way to meet customers. It's a great way that your name is just out there enough so when you go to a show, somebody comes and says, oh, ABC Reptiles, I talked to that guy once, or I saw him help somebody, or I saw him post something, I've seen his babies, or I've seen his name around. I feel a little more comfortable, as opposed to, BCD Reptiles, who doesn't do any social media, and you go, who the hell is this ass clown? So get on social media. If you're not there, you really should be there. I would not change the fact that we dove into that, and we dove into it early. That being said, does it cause a little drama? Yeah, it's gonna, but that's because some people act like they're, petulant children, and sometimes I act like a petulant child, but we try to minimize that. But social media, you need to be on there. Growth. Now this is another one that may not be good for business when I talk about this. So your mileage may vary following what I'm talking about. I wouldn't change our growth. But again, we were in a situation where, one, when we first started, there wasn't a ton of extra money to invest. And it wasn't a ton of place, nor did we have a ton of knowledge on what we were doing. We were going to have to learn that as we went. So having that slow growth, that contained growth, that growth that was metered at a certain pace to allow us to ramp up what we were doing with it, really helped us grow our business and grow it comfortably and feel good about where we were doing. And now we can look back and see how much it's grown and feel a sense of accomplishment. So that level of growth has been great. Now that being said, it's getting close to gas pedal time. We always knew gas pedal time was going to come, but I had to come to a true realization probably, I'd say this was about 6 or 8 months ago, where it's like, man, If certain things in my day life change, I won't be able to keep up with this the same way. And I also can't keep up with it being much bigger than it is. Truth be told, it's a struggle some days to keep up with it now. So I had to build my future in a way to get more time back, which is what I'm doing, so that come 2023, it can be full-blown gas pedal and we can handle doing a lot more because the time aspect will be there without me having to sell specific blocks of time to somebody else, which will be awesome. So I wouldn't change our growth. Had I jumped into this 100% right away, there's no way I could leave my day job for a lot of reasons at that point in time, and it would have failed astronomically. I would not be able to keep up with what I keep up with now if I'd have started this size. It just wouldn't happen. Partnerships. Man, so this is something I wouldn't change on the partnership that I have with Olympus. There's been some partnerships I've gotten involved in and some trades and deals I've gotten involved in the past that I probably would change, and some I wouldn't change, and you guys are probably trying to guess a few of those, and you know, you're probably wrong. I'll be honest on which ones I'm talking about. Like, you know, I know a lot of people like, oh, he's probably talking about his partnership with like tall grass rack systems, and I wouldn't change that. You know, it didn't end the way I wanted it to end, but it was a really great partnership, and I met some really great people, and it, you know, fortunately the TGR rack systems didn't work out the way that I wanted it to in the end, or I think the way that they wanted it to in the end, but I wouldn't change going through that partnership. Not at all. Like it helped this reptile room be where it's at. We wouldn't have been there. It also helped me gain a lot of knowledge early on working with Eric, because that dude knew a whole lot. He'd been in it a lot longer than I have. And so we'll be able to pick his brain. That's not, so if you guys think I'm talking about TGR when I say there's some I do different, you're wrong. That's not one of them. I would have definitely done that again in 100 years. Not everything's going to end perfectly. It's just the way it goes. My partnership here with camera guy Kurt, I would repeat that 100 times over, you know, but there have been times I've probably got over involved in something I maybe shouldn't have. As a business, we moved together and chose that. But the partnership is great. I cannot handle this amount of work on my own. I also am not, me personally, I'm not computer savvy. Kurt is very editing savvy. He did it before we started doing this. So he's able to put things together, or especially when he has time, and make some really cool videos, some things like that that are a lot of fun. We have different ideas that we're able to work and build off of each other's ideas and things that come together. There's no way, even though I'm the face you see the most often, there's no way I'm here without my partner. It's just not. Like, it's not there. So all the success that's here, whether it's success you believe is real or some people think we're full of shit, I don't know. But all the success that's here has been a joint effort, and it's not achieved on my own. So I would not change the partnership. But again, that may be depending on your situation, whether a partnership's a good deal. If you follow our Patreon, you know from our last video, there's some cautionary tales on that. Another thing I wouldn't change is starting with babies. You know, when I started, we bought some snakes, some males who were sub-adults. One was an adult, you know, but then we started really getting into snakes and buying. I bought mostly babies. There was very few exceptions. There was one ghost I bought that was about 1,000 grams, and there was one full-size adult pastel I bought. And then a full-size normal I pretty much rescued, to be blunt, although I paid for it, so I guess, you know, not really, but it was in a situation that needed to change. Everything else we bought was a baby, I think, or close to maybe 300-400 grams, 500 grams. We were buying very young animals to grow up, to raise up. I wouldn't change that. From a business aspect, probably not the best thing to do. You know, it's going to take me 3 years to get a girl to produce when you buy a baby. You know, if I could afford to buy an adult, from a business point, that might be better. Although you always got to ask yourself, why are they selling her? You know, and there's a lot of things I think are crap when people sell adults. But getting to watch those animals grow up, getting that experience in keeping those animals, getting that experience with babies as I was growing up, you know, my first few babies, you know, that were already well started as I bought them, so I'd be more prepared when I had my own babies. It was just fun, you know. There was something really exciting about coming home with this new baby snake and thinking of all the things you could do with it, and putting it up and then growing it up. And even though financially speaking, it's probably the worst way to do it, you know, I wouldn't trade it. I really wouldn't. I don't think I would be as good of a breeder had I not started with babies. I don't think I'd be as good of a keeper had I not started with babies. I don't think I'd be as knowledgeable. I don't think I'd be as good of a salesman. You know, I think starting with babies for me was great. I feel a connection to some of the animals that I raised up and grew up more than I do some of the other ones. So having those babies is awesome. Let me hold on a second. It's just one of them things that I think is really important. Start with babies. Had to turn that off. It's shaking, making me crazy. Kurt, is there anything that you would add that you wouldn't change that we've done?
No.
Nothing. There's got to be something that we've done that you say, man, we hit that out of the park. I'm glad we did it that way. Maybe it wasn't the best, but I'm still glad we did it that way, or something.
I think it's just the stuff that you went over.
Stuff I went, okay, well, let me put this to you, because I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. We started with our rats. We started breeding our rats. And before, if you guys remember, I said I wish we'd have bred rats earlier, right? I wish we'd have gotten to that earlier than we did, but getting into it was one of the best things we ever did, breeding our own rats. Man, I should have put that on here. I would not change the fact we breed our own rats, not in a million years. Were you happy? I know I am, but I'm not the ones that had to work with them every day. That we started like with our own rat tubs and cages and things we built and engineered. Or let me correct that, things you built and engineered. Were you happy we started that way, or do you wish we'd have just said hell with it and spent some money?
I'm happy with the way we started with the rats.
And I felt it was kind of neat because when you start from the ground up and you build that and you're working with this, you see what works well, what doesn't work well, you know, and you were very connected to those. Early on, we had just a couple racks of rats. Man, you were super connected to all them rats, right? You know, you knew all of them, what they needed. It was kind of a neat thing. So I'm really glad we started our rat breeding small and built our own stuff. I'm glad we didn't build our own snake racks. Maybe I'd feel differently if I had to work with those rat racks, but they worked pretty good, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, he said they worked really well. So I wouldn't change that either. It wasn't on my note list, but breeding rats and not over-investing. I guess that's one other thing I could put in there. That's really where that's going, is I would not change how we invested. And again, depending on your situation, that might be different for you. But in our situation where literally when we started, both of us were pretty much coming off of a fairly fresh divorce. I think mine was, what, a year earlier than yours?
Yep.
Something like that. So, you know, and that's a financial kick in the old ball sack if you ever go through one. But we were both kind of freshly going through some major life changes, which is going to reset your finances and how your money is used in life when this started. So I, for one, would not change how we invested. You know, we didn't invest a lot of money up front. We grew really slow on the growth, but we also grew really slow with our investment. And I never felt like, man, you know, I put so much into this. If I lose it all, if I don't produce an animal, I can't eat, or I can't pay my electric bill, or I'm not going to be able to continue on with what I'm doing in life because all my eggs are in this basket, and if it doesn't work, you know, I'm so screwed. Whereas now I can sit back and look and say, okay, I invested this small amount of money in the grand scheme of things, and so did Kurt, and look what we've grown out of that, and look how long it took us to grow it. Really not that long. If you're tracking back to really the beginning, which was, we probably started acquiring snakes in 13 or 14. Didn't produce the first clutch until 14. I guess I produced one that died. 15 was my first time actually producing an animal that survived. So, you know, we're 21 now, for those of you that watch the video 5 years later. So 6 years, you know, 8 years, you count those first two, that little bit of money has grown into a massive investment that's crazy. So I would not change how we did that. I am very happy with how that went. All right, guys, that's all I've got. We're going to slide over to Patreon, and we're going to talk about some more stuff about this. I'll be honest, we are so well organized, I haven't figured out yet but I will figure it out before we turn the camera on. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. We'll see you next time.